Hey guys, it's Will from the Back 40. I hope you're doing well. Wanted to come on YouTube for about an hour today and talk about the events of last night and anything else that you want to talk about. And then I'm going to be going on to TikTok for an hour and a half after that. But I wanted to come on today and talk about the events from last night. We all woke up this morning and learned that while we were laying our heads down on our pillows to try to figure out different avenues and approaches we could take to pay our healthcare premiums that are doubling, tripling. In some cases, the President of the United States was fulfilling his lifelong dream to attack another country. So what do you think about that? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about that? That's what I wanted to talk about today, is just the craziness that's happening out there. Yeah, Kim, batshit crazy times, no other way to put it. One of the things that I thought of, I couldn't help it, being, not the spring chicken that I used to be. Whenever something like this happens, I'm immediately taken back to previous times in our history when really important historic things have happened and presidents have come out to talk about that. So some of the things I talked about, even I thought about going way back to an early age. For some of you that may be older like me, I can remember President Jimmy Carter standing up at the podium with the president of Egypt and the president of Israel, talking about a new day in the Middle East and a new peace in the Middle East, and all of the different bridges that built and opened up that unfortunately have been destroyed under the Trump administration. I also can remember Ronald Reagan coming on television and talking to us about the fall of the Berlin Wall and how important that was to the opening of the Iron Curtain and what it was going to mean for European relationships and the opening of Eastern European countries, etc. I can remember George H.W. Bush. Some of you will remember at the fall of the Soviet Union when Boris Yeltsin became president. I can remember George H.W. Bush, who was not the most well-spoken president in the world, coming on to television and talking to us about what this was going to mean for international relations, etc. So I remember all of those things. I remember those Democratic and Republican presidents coming on to talk about great moments in history. And then today at 11 o'clock Central Time, when the president comes on TV, and I watch him say things like, there was a steel door. He almost made it to the steel door. He had the steel door within his reach. He wanted to get to the steel door. He almost made it to the steel door, but we've got some really tough people, so he didn't make it to the steel door. And he went on and on and on about the steel door. I'm assuming he's talking about Maduro trying to get to a safe room or, something like that, but he just meanders and carries on and talks about the steel door. And then he goes on to talk about wanting to make Venezuela great again, that their infrastructure is broken. And I think about this and what's happening right now in the United States, especially in rural America, okay? We just cut $137 billion from rural healthcare. We have over 1,000 hospitals in rural America that are in danger of closing. We have healthcare deserts all over rural America. Now, don't get me wrong, guys, this is happening all over the country, okay? This is happening all over the country. So when I talk about rural America, these things translate to everybody in this country, all right? But our healthcare is in steep decline. I've got people that I've talked to recently. Hey, Sleepy Mama, good to see you. I've got people that I've talked to recently that saw their healthcare triple. Their insurance cost triple. Education in rural America on the decline. Schools merging, going to 4-day school weeks. We've got schools literally, guys, within 50 miles of me right here in Southwest Missouri. Those schools are in old metal barns that were built 30, 40, 50 years ago, where they just threw something up because of growth and they were hoping that in the long run they'd be able to build a better school, and they haven't been able to do that because of funding and the problems that exist in rural America. And we've got an infrastructure in rural America that's crumbling. Okay, we still don't have Wi-Fi in the places that we need it. If you get 50, 60 miles outside of a major city, the downtown areas of cities all over this country in rural America are collapsing, falling apart, crumbling on themselves. Hi, Mercedes. And what's the president's response to that? President's response to that is to cut more money from rural health care, to cut more money from rural education, and to put tariffs in place that have destroyed foreign agricultural markets. And yet he has the nerve to come on TV today and tell the people of rural America, he has the nerve to come on TV today and tell the people of rural America, I want to make Venezuela great again. I want to take billions of dollars of American money and I want to send it to Venezuela to rebuild their infrastructure. Forget better infrastructure in rural America. I want to rebuild the infrastructure in Venezuela. How does that make you guys feel? You know, my question for the brothers and sisters of mine here in rural America that voted for Donald Trump is, how long are we going to let blind allegiance stand in the way of good policy? Your health care is being cut. Your education programs are being cut. You're not getting the same funding for infrastructure to keep your businesses going that the rest of the country gets. And the man you elected to make America great again stands in front of you on national television and tells you, I'm going to spend billions of dollars in Venezuela, making Venezuela great again. And oh, my friends, you follow the money. You watch what happens. As they rebuild the country of Venezuela, as they open up those oil production facilities to American companies, as they open up those beaches to beachfront development, you wait and see whose name is on the ownership list or on the boards of those companies. You hide and watch. Guarantee it won't be Hispanic surnames. So my question is, how long are you going to allow this to continue to pass? You know, I try to be open-minded about this. I try to make the argument all the time that we need to meet people where they are. And I tell you all the time, we're not asking you to admit that you were wrong. We're asking you to admit you were lied to. But this feels like a litmus test for something different. You were told he was going to make America great again. You were told that he was going to invest in American infrastructure. You were told he was going to invest in American education. You were told he was going to save farming and ranching and that he was going to save rural America. And now, right to your face, he's telling you he's going to take the dollars that he took away from us in rural America and he's going to send them south of the border. He's going to make Venezuela great again. This feels like a litmus test, meaning I can no longer ask the question, will you just admit you were lied to? It's time to fess up and say, this is not the guy that you thought he was. He doesn't give a damn about making America great again. There's no question in my mind that this was a kid that laid in bed at night, even in his teens, and dreamed about overthrowing foreign countries when he was in military school. Probably had no idea that he could ever become president of the United States and actually be in a position where he could pull it off. But I guarantee you, I could see this guy laying in bed as a teenager at military school, dreaming about overthrowing foreign countries. I think there are all kinds of reasons he wants to go into Venezuela, not just having to do with the oil, although I think the oil is one of the biggest drivers. I think there's real estate development down there. I think there's agricultural development down there. All kinds of things. And once again, we're asking the men and women of our military to put their lives in danger to go into a foreign country to set up a scheme so that the wealthy in this country can get richer and richer. And I'm just a good old boy from rural America. I'm not talking about, the oligarchies and the far left approach. All that stuff is important to me and I agree with it. I'm just talking about the fact that it doesn't pass the smell test. That once again, we're sending our men and women to a foreign country to set the table. While we're fighting for crumbs under the table here, they're going to go down there and rebuild Venezuela with our American dollars that should be spent here to fix our infrastructure so that the wealthy can make their, I won't use that word, so that the wealthy can put their name on the oil companies and the property development and the hotel development and the casino development and everything else that's going to come along with it in Venezuela. It's just, I mean, it's not unbelievable in the sense that you have to believe that Donald Trump can pull off anything and dupe people into following him, but it's unbelievable in the sense that anybody would still follow him. Forget about Democrat, Republican, and Independent, okay? Just forget about that for a minute. He just told you on television today that he wants to take billions of American dollars and invest that in Argentinian infrastructure, which he said today was broken, and he wanted to make Venezuela great again. Let me read some of your comments here. My sons will not be fighting this war and my taxes won't pay for it. I hope that's true, lollygagger. The only way that's going to be true is if Republicans and conservative people in rural America and the rest of the country stand up and say, we're not going to take it anymore. It's going to take some real truth awakening on the part of people that supported this president. Because the only way Tom Cotton, the only way Lindsey Graham, and the only way these other sycophants that immediately came out on television today and backed the president are going to change their mind is if it's the conservative people in rural America and in rural red parts of the country that are standing up to them and saying, we're not going to take this anymore. Peter Thiel and buddies were beginning to make network states in Honduras. And I read about that. Guys, it's all a grift. There's no doubt in my mind that all of our foreign policy right now, the vast majority of it, is a grift. Typicton, I've heard that. I think when I did my live the other night, word got out in Greenland that we were up and running because in my TikTok live the other day, there were all kinds of people coming in from Greenland talking about rare earth minerals and that they were really concerned that the United States was going to make some kind of silly diplomatic move there. Hey guys, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've got about 58,000 followers on YouTube. I've got around 700,000 followers across all social media. My name is Will Westmoreland. I'm a small farmer in Southwest Missouri. I'm also a political consultant. I own a tech company that works really hard to get the word out in rural elections around the country. I've worked for campaigns like John Tester. I've worked for campaigns like John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. So I've got a political consulting background. I've got a farming background. At one time, my family and I operated a 300 cow-calf operation in Southwest Missouri. Thank you, Lisa. I've written a couple of poems. I'm not a Defiance 13 by any stretch of the imagination, am I? I'm not a Defiance 13 by any stretch of the imagination. But I do like to write a poem here or there. John, tell me why. Listen, I'm not a thin-skinned guy. You can call me a bullshitter all day long. Hell, people have been calling me that my whole life. You're never a hero in your own hometown. But tell me what I got wrong, John. If you can argue with me what I got wrong, I'll give you the space to do that. And if you can prove me wrong, I'll change my mind. That's the difference between me and the rage baiters. I'm not a rage baiter. I'm not coming on here just to fire people up. I want to see real change in this country. I want to see us stand up and fund rural health care. I want to see us stand up and save small family farms and ranches. I want to see us stand up and save small rural schools. That's the difference between me and the rage baiters. So John, if you think I'm just a bullshitter, this is the place to make your case. Don't disappear into the woodwork. Tell me what I've got wrong. Tell me what I've gotten wrong. Reflective progressive. I'm about as far away from the America First ideology as one can get, and even I immediately ask aloud, what about our infrastructure? 100%. That's what made me the angriest about what happened last night. I guess maybe next to the loss of life and putting our troops at risk, etc. But boy, that's what I thought about first too, reflective perspective. That's what I thought about first. We are cutting billions from healthcare. We're cutting billions from education. We're cutting billions from rural infrastructure. And yet we're going to go make Argentina. Those aren't my words. The president said he wants to make Argentina great again. How are you going to make the argument that I'm making this up or I'm a bullshitter or I'm not telling the truth when all I'm doing is repeating to you what the president said? I want to make Argentina great again. And the thing is, we're trying to do that at the Back 40, telling you a little bit more about me. If you go to back40action, allspelledout.org, We're trying to do it in a bipartisan nature. Hell, we'll support a Republican in a primary that believes in good rural policy. We'll support a Democrat. You know? Paulette, it's not about not helping with the drug problem. You know, you call me an idiot because you don't think I want to help with the drug problem. Let me tell you the difference between me and you, Paulette. I hope you'll stick around long enough to listen. I know people that served in the Coast Guard. And I know that the Coast Guard of this country has been doing a more effective job of interdicting drugs around the world coming into this country than the military's done under the past few months under Trump. Okay? That's the bottom line. There is a way to stop the drugs from coming into this country. And we've done that through the Coast Guard, and we've done it effectively. If you want to triple the budget of the Coast Guard in order to stop drugs from coming into this country, I'm 100% fine with that. So don't set up some bullshit false dichotomy, okay? That's a straw man, and I'm an old debater. You're not going to see me fall for that. You're not going to make the argument that if I don't want to see us go into Venezuela, if I don't want to see us spend billions of dollars rebuilding their infrastructure, then somehow I'm against stopping drugs from coming into this country. That's horse shit, and you can stack it as high as you want to, and it doesn't make it true. And yeah, I am a Democrat. I don't hide the fact. Why should I? I'm not asking you to hide, Virginia, the fact that you're a Republican. You may be a Democrat, I may be a Republican, you may be a Republican, I may be a Democrat. Measure what I'm saying based on whether it's true or not. And I have yet to see a single person in here making a comment about me being wrong that's tried to prove it. Because you know what they say about opinions. I heard the President of the United States in his speech today say that the infrastructure of Venezuela is broken and he wants to make Venezuela great again, and he's going to do that by taking American dollars and spending them down there. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, he said it on national damn television. Tell me I'm wrong. You can do better than that, Weeky. Come on, man. That's weak. Take off the hat. You don't deserve it. And I apologize. I tried to set the live that no kids under 18 could come in. So I apologize, Weeky. You might be an 8-year-old. Sounds like it. If so, I apologize. He said that they would reimburse us for every dollar. All right, so let me ask you a question. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have laughed at that. All right. Let me go back, Hugh. All right, Hugh. Let me ask you a question. Has he said that before? Has he said that before? How many times have you heard him say that he's paying for this, and this out of the dollars that we got from other countries because of the tariffs, when we all know, Republican economists, Democratic economists, independent economists, anybody that's had a year of college economics, we all know that American consumers pay the tariffs. Okay? I mean, do you think just because the man says something that makes it true? No, I don't hate Trump. Don't hate anybody. I'm a Christian. I don't hate the man. I think he's got horrible policies, and I'll debate him all day long on here. We got to get away from the platitudes, guys. These platitudes mean nothing. You know, when I'm making a case against spending billions of American dollars in Venezuela to make their infrastructure stronger, and you come back and you tell me, well, you just hate Trump, what the hell does that prove or disprove? If I hate him and I'm telling the truth, what does it matter? If I love him and I'm telling the truth, what does it matter? Make the argument. Get out of the lane. If you think I'm wrong, you prove it. Debate me. Show me on here where I'm wrong. Let's start with, did the president say or did he not say, I want to make Venezuela great again? I want to rebuild the infrastructure of Venezuela. I watched him say it on this TV in my office just 35 minutes ago. Oh, I wouldn't have, Hugh. Hugh, how can you make that judgment, Hugh? You don't know me at all. You know, if you'd watched any of my stuff or if you knew anything at all about me, you'd know how silly that statement is, that if a Democratic president did it, I would support it. because you would know, number one, that all the time I make the point that if you're going to be a part of something, you have to be its greatest critic. That's why as a Christian, I fight Christian nationalism right and left. That's why as a Democrat, I criticize my party when Bill Clinton pushed for NAFTA. That's why I criticized Bill Clinton when he did what he did with Monica Lewinsky. That's why I criticized Barack Obama for his use of drones in foreign countries. So you come on here, Hugh, you don't know me at all, and you make the point that just because I'm a Democrat, I would do anything a Democrat wants to do. If you knew me at all, my friends, you would know that's not true. Okay, so Hugh, we built the oil infrastructure in Venezuela. Let's break this down. Hugh, answer this question for me. Did we also rebuild the infrastructure of Europe after World War II? Just a yes or no. I don't want to see some long diatribe. Just answer one simple question, Hugh. Did we rebuild the infrastructure of Europe after World War II? Did we do that? Yes or no? I'm going to give you a second to answer here. Through the Marshall Plan, did we rebuild the infrastructure of Europe after World War II? The answer to the question is yes. Right? They helped, but we spent billions of dollars in Europe. If you guys don't know, okay, this is where the cheese starts to slide off my cracker a little bit. Maybe you guys aren't old enough to know what the Marshall Plan is, okay? But the Marshall Plan was the plan that the United States and our allies put together to rebuild Europe after World War II. So Hugh, I'm looking for your answer. Did I miss it? Don't disappear on me, Hugh. Answer the question. Did we rebuild the infrastructure of Europe after World War II? Just tell me, yes or no. You're not going to answer. Okay, the reason you're not going to answer is because you're going to know where I went next. Even if it was true that we built the oil infrastructure in Venezuela, which is not true, the American government did not do that, American companies did that, then you would not make the argument today that we should invade Europe to take back the infrastructure that we built in Europe after World War II. You would not make that argument because you know it's silly. But you'll make that argument for this president. You wouldn't make the argument anywhere. You wouldn't make the argument anywhere that we would go into a foreign country and take over the infrastructure that we helped build there today. You're only making that argument because you want to defend the action of this president. No, you don't get to say that, Hugh. You don't get to say this isn't about Europe and the Marshall Plan. You don't get to say it has zero to do with that. You made the argument that this invasion was okay because American dollars were spent on the infrastructure there. That was your argument, not mine. Okay? So what I'm asking you is to be intellectually honest. If your argument is that American dollars built the oil infrastructure in Venezuela, therefore we had the right to invade them and take that infrastructure over, then why don't you make the same argument about Europe or countries in Africa or Southeast Asia? The reason you don't make that argument about those is because you know how silly the argument is. And you're making the argument to defend the president instead of making an argument that's justified and valid about the actions that are taking place down there. And if you were honest with yourself, you would have just admit that. Buddy, I admit I'm wrong all the time. If you watch me on the back 40, when somebody changes my mind or they make an argument that invalidates something that I'm saying, I change my mind. Jay, tell me how. Jay, slogans like that are just the hobgoblin of a weak mind. You know? I mean, I'm laying out in front of you the facts about what happened. I've backed it up with data, and you just say your Democratic program is showing? That's like just saying tree or squirrel or dog or my shoes untied. That doesn't mean anything. Make an argument. I'll debate it with you. Why did everyone regulate coal so hard? Coal is still a viable energy option. I know, Fritz. Maybe I started from the wrong perspective, expecting honesty, right? God bless you all and Happy New Year's. God bless you too, Dominic. Trump 2028 because it hurts you. Your healthcare is failing, your schools are failing, your infrastructure is failing, but Trump 2028, baby. But Hugh, that's not the argument that you made. You made the argument that because we spent American dollars in Venezuela to help build the oil infrastructure, that made it okay for us to invade. And I'm telling you that if that's your logic, why don't we apply it anywhere else? We don't apply it anywhere else because we know that it's wrong. We would never say, let's invade Europe because we paid for infrastructure there. We would never say, let's invade parts of Africa because we paid for infrastructure there. I very rarely remove people. I want you guys to make arguments. I love talking to people who disagree with me. If you make fun of marginalized people, if you're just a horrible person or you're a troll, I'm going to boot you out. So, were you a Biden supporter? Yeah, I voted for Joe Biden. The first time I ever voted a straight ticket in my life was when Donald Trump ran in 2016. Before then, even though I would always call myself a Democrat, I never voted a straight ticket in my life. 2016 was the first time I ever did that. Dude, you're trying to apply logic. They have none. That's true in a lot of cases, football, but the problem is they do have logic, and many of them know they're wrong because I live amongst them, and some of my best friends voted for Donald Trump, and many of them have changed their minds. Social media, I don't think, is super reflective of what's happening in the real world. I mean, Donald Trump's got the lowest approval rating of any president at this stage in his presidency in history. He's lost 9% of his support in rural America. So that tells me that people are changing their minds. So the folks that come on here aren't always representative of what's happening in the real world. Trying to read the rest of these comments. Appreciate all the interaction today, guys. And listen, I welcome opposition in here. I'm not going to throw people out because you disagree with me, etc. That's interesting that you're saying that I don't represent the city of St. Louis. Guess what? Never claimed to. Never claimed to. Don't live in St. Louis. I'm not an elected office holder there. But one thing I can guarantee you of is that more people in St. Louis agree with me than disagree with me on this topic. I mean, Hugh, you haven't shown me where I'm wrong, my friend. You made one single argument, and that is we help pay for the oil infrastructure, therefore the invasion is justified. And I showed you that's not true, and yet you keep coming back like you won some big argument, like you just won the New York City Marathon, Military actions aren't invading a country. I'll let everybody just chew on that comment for a while. Military actions aren't invading a country. Everybody just chew on that for a while. I don't even think I need to say anything there. Farmers used to be predominantly Democrat. Yeah, they did. As a matter of fact, the largest progressive political movement, this may interest some of you, the largest political progressive movement in the country was the Grange movement in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and it was 100% built around the rejection of tariffs and the fact that farmers couldn't control their input costs or their sales price. And it was the first political movement that incorporated people of color and women into their movement. That's one of the interesting things I talk about. I go around the country and I speak. Last year, I did 127 speaking engagements around the country in front of thousands of people. It's one of the things I love to talk about. The great-great-grandparents of a lot of these rural people that wear MAGA hats today were part of the biggest progressive movement in the country. Give me a number to call. Let's debate. Now, unfortunately, YouTube doesn't have that thing, but let's do it right here. I'm sorry, crypto. Let's do it right here. I mean, just make your arguments. It's easy to do. Put a comment in there. Tell me why I'm lying, East Coast. I mean, you're in a no spin zone here. If you think I'm lying, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion, but tell me how. Tell me what I got wrong. Just because you say it doesn't make it true. That's going to shock a lot of you folks that support this president. Who's the gentleman behind you? This guy right here is my grandfather, the one that looks like Walt Disney or Tennessee Ernie Ford. He was a 20-year Air Force veteran. He raised me when my dad died when I was 5. The gentleman above him is my third great grandfather, Seth Tuttle. He was one of the largest contractors and architects in Southwest Missouri, built a lot of the famous buildings here. Donnie is dozing. Just trying to catch up on comments. Appreciate all the comments, guys. I'm going to stay on till about 1 o'clock, and then I'm going to switch over to TikTok. Am I a farmer? I'm a small farmer. I do agroforestry, Kevin. I used to be a cow-calf operator for many, many years. I had a 300 cow-calf operation with my family. I had a larger agroforestry operation up until a couple of years ago. Had some health issues. I had an aneurysm a couple of times in my liver, and I downsized. I'm getting more into the food supply business. Right now, my biggest project is I'm working with a gentleman in Kansas to try to create gluten-free flour out of Chinese chestnuts. So I'm trying to create a sales revenue for farmers that are raising agroforestry crops. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's okay to disagree with me. I mean, bottom line is, it's okay to disagree with me. And Fing, I don't think you're a troll. I just said there are some in here. I mean, it's obvious when somebody spams a misspelled comment over and over again, they're a troll. I don't think you're a troll, but and you're entitled to think that Biden was the worst president ever. But I'm not talking about Biden today. Joe Biden's not the president. He didn't invade Venezuela. I'm talking about Venezuela. Yeah, my grandfather was handsome. I wish a little bit of that would have trickled down to me. That's not farming. Joe, you obviously don't know what farming is. If you don't think a 300 cow-calf operation is farming, if you don't think raising agroforestry products is farming, then you don't know what farming is. You don't know the government definition and you don't know the farming definition. And that's okay. Not everybody does. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying you're entitled to your opinion and you're wrong, but you're entitled to it. All right, caught up on comments. I wonder whether the LDS Church is going to relinquish all authority. Not talking about the LDS Church today. What do you see happening now that we've just done this? Well, I think we're going to see one of the biggest grifts we've ever seen in American history. I think that we are going to make Venezuela great again. I think we are going to take over the oil infrastructure. I think we are going to develop, their beaches and real estate, et cetera. And I think we're going to see a gigantic grift. No, I don't think a full-scale war is worth what he's trying to do by any stretch. What about Putin? Why didn't Trump arrest him? Yeah, exactly. Who are we kidding? This is all about the oil. Yeah, I think a big part of it is Trump. Absolutely. Absolutely. If Puerto Rico had oil, Trump would grift their infrastructure. I think the grift applies everywhere. I mean, from everything I've been able to read from multiple reliable sources, the Trump family's made a little over $3 billion so far off the grift of the presidency. If you include the cryptocurrency investments that were made for them and, the gifts of airplanes and everything else, they've made a little bit over $3 billion. I think it's crazy that everyone says how Trump is stupid. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's smart enough to surround him with people that know how to carry out a grift. So say what you want about him. I mean, he makes money off of the presidency. He makes money off of his grift. I think when people say he's stupid, I think what they're really talking about is just like a basic understanding of the facts. Like when he thought that we had an Air Force during the Revolutionary War, when he thought that Garcia actually had MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles or, that type of thing. I think when they say he's stupid, they're talking about that type of thing. But Trump has always had a propensity to surround himself with people who understand the grift, right? Like don't pay your small contractors because they don't have enough money to fight you in court. All of those different types of things. Brazil is next. I don't know. It depends. I mean, they put They put his buddy in Brazil in prison. He didn't like that, so he played around with the tariffs on beef, etc. I would say nothing is outside the realm of possibility. It's definitely about the oil. I agree. That's part of it. But I wouldn't limit the grift there, Kat. I wouldn't limit the grift at just the oil. I would say that that's going to be a big part of the grift, but I wouldn't limit it there. Adam, 100% agree. Somebody tried to make that Faustian choice with me earlier. They said, well, if you're against the invasion, you're for drugs coming here. That's just a false choice, and it's not true. I'm friends with many, many great men and women that served in the Coast Guard and that have been interdicting drugs their entire life. And I will tell you that I'm 100% for stopping the drugs. That can be done without invading the country and spending billions and billions of American dollars on rebuilding their infrastructure. I think the rest of the grift are the minerals that are down there, the real estate development of their beaches, you name it. I mean, anything that you can build in an economy, I think that's going to be part of the grift. And if you look at what's happened here in the United States. People made such a big deal out of Hunter Biden being on the Burisma board, and then it got investigated 8 separate times, and the Republicans could never prove that the Biden family made a dime off of that. And yet here, we know from government records that the Trump family's made over $3 billion off of the stuff that they've done here during the presidency. You've got his kids serving on all these boards that are giving giant government contracts. I think the grift goes on as far as, they want it to go because nobody's pushing back against it. There's not a Justice Department to push back against it. There's not an Attorney General to push back against it. So, I don't think there's going to be any accountability until they're gone from office at all. At all. Have no clue what you're talking about. Facts from TikTok. Well, John, you're entitled to your opinion. I don't get my facts from TikTok. I served on the National Healthcare Campaign back in the day. I've been involved in rural politics and been involved in rural policy for over 30 years. Good friends with people that have worked at the State Department and worked for the Department of Commerce, et cetera. I back up what I say with facts. If you listen to me regularly on social media, I put my citations right in my videos so that you can go double check everything I say. And one of my favorite lines to use is, don't take my word for it. Go double check what I have to say. But when you come on here, you realize when you say that I'm lying or I don't know the facts, and then you don't back that up with anything, that is exactly what you're doing, right? Nobody's got to show me respect just because I'm an older guy. I'm using facts to back up what I have to say. If you can disprove it, I'll change my mind. But you can't. You can't. You can't. Okay, so JC, I watched the President of the United States say today that the Venezuelan infrastructure is broken, that he wants to make Venezuela great again, and that we are going to spend American dollars to make that happen. You tell me how I got that wrong. Thanks, Darren. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I don't know what you mean, John, by you absolute regard. I don't know. I don't understand what that means. Thanks, GMTA. Appreciate. Oh, hey, Dina. Good to see you. Good to see you. Brian, listen, that happened when I was in college. I know all about Noriega. I know all about the actions that were taken. Are we going to do whataboutism now? I just did a video on whataboutism a couple of days ago or yesterday. Whataboutism is the hobgoblin of a weak mind. You want to go back 200 years and you found another president that invaded a country for political purposes. Does that make what happened today right? How long are we going to govern by whataboutism, right? It's just, it's absurd. We can't do that anymore. We can't do that anymore. Thanks, Perry. Appreciate that. The far right comes on my lives all the time. They're welcome. And I've changed a lot of their minds. I speak all over the country, guys, and I've had many, many Republican farmers and ranchers come up to me. They've even done lives with me before that have come up to me and said, "Hey, thank you so much for sharing." John, I mean, right now, you're just blah 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 blah. You haven't shown a single thing I've lied about. I mean, you can come on here and say I'm lying as much as you want. Nobody cares. You're a typical liberal. One sentence, Trump is making billions. That's not what I said, but thank you for your input. All input is appreciated. Have no clue what you mean. Didn't make any sense. That's not what I said, but thank you so much for your input. Helps the algorithm. David, thanks for that valuable input. We all appreciate it. We all appreciate it. Good point, Dan. Conquered land is conquered resources, and that's where you're going to see the grift. I'm not going to ban you, John. You do, trust me, you may not realize this, but your comments do me more good than anybody else in here because you are the opposition and you don't realize this. But when people listen to what I have to say and then they read what you're saying, I know where I'm coming down on that debate and I know where my ranking is compared to yours. So you just keep on going, my friend. Trust me, you're doing me all kinds of favors. Yeah, I don't think he understands how this works, Crypto. I don't think John understands how this whole thing works. Yeah, John, that's what I said. I'm glad that's your takeaway, my friend. Oh, man. John, come on, dude. You've got to be a kid. I set this for 18 and above. How the heck did you get in here? I'm sure that when Trump raised the flag at the palace, he said, yeah, there you go. That's pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Grifter in chief. That's a good way to put it. I mean, they've made $3 billion off the presidency so far. $3 billion. Yeah, that's a good point, Maria. I've been waiting to see what the Russian reaction is going to be today, and I haven't seen anything. It's going to be interesting to see what the Russian reaction is because they're not going to like us taking control of that much oil at all. Thanks, Ron. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, Raw family. That's what I was thinking about today. I mean, they're calling this a law enforcement action. I don't know if you guys heard what Rubio had to say earlier today, but he said the reason why we didn't have time to talk to Congress about invading Venezuela is because this is a law enforcement action. And I started thinking that immediately, Raw family. I started thinking immediately, well, where could you not make that case and how dangerous is that? Could you not make that same case about Colombia? Could you not make that same case about, Mexico, to your point? Anthony, I don't care. If it has a bunch of Democrats in the Epstein files, then send them to jail. That is the difference, my friend. I mean, if a former Democratic president is in there and he did inappropriate things with minors, put him in jail. That's where he belongs. That's the difference, okay? I'm not going to defend anybody for political reasons who did horrible things. I think that that's what people don't understand, Yeah, I worked for Bill Clinton's administration. I voted for Bill Clinton. But if they can prove that he did that, put him in jail and throw away the key. Exactly, 16. Exactly. Yeah, Todd, that's what I worry about. It's one of the first things I thought of, in all honesty, is that, are they going to make that case with Colombia and Mexico? I really, really worry about that because saying that it's a law enforcement example or initiative and not a military initiative, that was kind of scary to me. Now, I'm not a military guy. I got my arm caught in the power takeoff of a tractor when I was 12 years old, and it almost ripped it off. So I couldn't go into the military. I tried, but they won't take you. And so I'm not a military guy. I'm not a military expert, but it did worry me when they said the justification for this was a law enforcement action. Yeah, Anthony, I agree with that. I mean, if somebody did horrific things to minors, they belong in jail, and I don't care what their political party is. Uh, yeah, PTO stands for power takeoff. You got it. Yeah, on the back of a tractor. So when I was 12, one of the reasons I advocate for rural healthcare, guys, when I was 12 years old, I was digging post holes. I grew up on a 640-acre farm, and we were out digging post holes for a riding arena to train our horses. And I got my left arm caught in the power takeoff on a tractor, and it nearly ripped it off. And I spent 2 months in the hospital and had about 18 surgeries, getting it reattached, that type of thing. And and that's why I advocate so strongly for rural health care, is because I went through that farm injury as a kid. I like that, Vanessa. Your party hid the Epstein files for 4 years and called it a right-wing conspiracy theory. They hid the files. They hid the files. All right. That's not what the Department of Justice just said, John, but we'll take your word for it. The Department of Justice just said the FBI director, the Attorney General, and the lead investigator for the Department of Justice said that the files weren't released by Biden or by them because there's nothing there. So which is it? Was it a massive cover-up covering two administrations, or is it much ado about nothing? The difference between you and me is I've wanted to see those files come out all along, and I want to see people held accountable regardless of their political ideology. Yeah, Viva, you're not going to win. I mean, I guarantee you, John doesn't know the history of the Epstein files. You're not going to win there. I appreciate the effort, but he doesn't know the history of the files, or he'd know how stupid what he just said is. Sure you did, John. Sure you did, buddy. Jesus Christ is the way and the truth. Yeah, I believe that. I'm a born again Christian. Walked down the aisle of the Brighton United Methodist Church in 1980, not long after my farm injury, and my faith gets me through a lot of things. But the primary thing I'd like to stress is that it's my faith, and I don't feel it should be imposed on other people through law. Yeah, Anthony, there's no doubt in my mind that if these files, once they're finally released and we learn that there are wealthy men in these things, regardless of political party, et cetera, then there's no doubt in my mind that people were trying to keep this from coming out from all different walks and stripes. I mean, I can totally see that happening. The difference between me and John is I don't care if a Democratic politician goes to jail for doing horrible things to minors. I want to see that happen. What John's going to do is, when it all comes out, he's going to say the Democrats were the only ones that did it, and they're lying about the Republicans who did it. That's what John's going to say. That's a great point, Ryan. I get exactly what you're saying there, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We got about 6 more minutes, guys, and then I'm going to be going live on TikTok, so ask any other questions that you want to ask. Yeah. Money's always been that game, right, Anthony? Money's always had the ability to do that. It's a two-tier justice system in this country, and money is the driver behind that two-tier system. I don't have to put words in anybody's mouth, John. I heard the president say it. I'm still waiting for you to tell me what I got wrong. John, you're not a centrist. Come on, man. You're not a centrist. I mean, don't try to play that game with us. You are not a centrist. A centrist does not believe that the United States of America should spend billions of dollars rebuilding the infrastructure of Venezuela. There is no way, shape, or form that you can make the argument that a centrist would believe that. That's absurd, man. Come on. That's absurd. Robot, I'm not willing to say that the dual party system, that it's all one big party now. I do think that the Democratic Party's got to do a much better job of differentiating itself, but I still see a lot of differences in the parties. I still see a lot of differences in the parties, especially when it comes to wage development, workers' rights, reproductive rights for women, that type of thing. Do I think they're too much alike? I do, and I'd like to see the Democratic Party differentiate itself more. But I don't like the whole there's no difference between the party thing. Amen, Mike. That's exactly what they're going to do. Come on, John. That's stupid, man. I mean, all you people would literally be part of the Gestapo. So you're making the argument. Let me make sure I got this right, John. You tell me yes or no. You're making the argument because I don't want to see, while healthcare in the United States is being cut by hundreds of billions of dollars. So we got 1,000 rural hospitals that are about to close. We're cutting rural healthcare by $137 billion. We have got an average increase in premiums in rural America of 137%. We've got schools closing at a record rate for 3 decades. And you think because I don't want to see us spend hundreds of billions of dollars in Venezuela to rebuild their infrastructure, that makes me part of some kind of Gestapo? That seems pretty stupid, man. The United States is bad. How's the United States back, Salty? I mean, we went into a third world country with no significant military, and we took over their oil fields. I mean, how are we back? It's like a 6'5" grown ass man walking into a elementary school and finding the smallest kindergartner that he can and punching him in the nose and knocking him out, and you making an argument that proves what a badass he is. John, you missed again, man. You swung and you missed again. You swung and you missed again. And you swung and you missed again. As of yet, I mean, you've probably made 150 comments in this thread, and not once have you posted anything that proves what I said is wrong. But you are helping my algorithm, so please keep coming back. John, I hope you will follow me and come into every YouTube live because you are very much helping my algorithm. So thank you. Yeah, he does, Zebra. He'd make a horrible football coach, right? I think you're right, Zoom. I think he wears them on his sleeve. Yeah, Raw Family, that's absolutely right. I mean, he said it. This is the crazy thing about what John's doing right now, okay? We watched the president saying it on television. We watched him with our own eyes, okay? And yet John comes into my live on YouTube and tries to tell you and I that what we saw the president say, he really didn't say. Thanks, Pamela. I really appreciate it. Yes, Slava Ukraine. Absolutely. You're right, Mike. It's not. You know, Mike, I've been equating this. You know, they cut. Okay, I am going to have to kick you for that one, John. Thanks for coming in. I'm sorry you weren't more mature, but I am going to have to kick you for that one. But yeah, Mike, I agree with you there. I've been equating this. You know, they cut $137 billion from healthcare, and then they do this silly little plan. That's my grandfather, Angelo, believe it or not. He looks like Walt Disney. He looks like Tennessee Ernie Ford. But that's my grandpa. That's not Walt Disney. But then they throw this $50 billion at it. And here's the thing about the $50 billion. $25 billion of it immediately goes to the states, but they've got to compete for the other $50 billion. And it's like the Hunger Games, you know? It's crazy. So I equate it to like somebody comes and robs your entire house, and on the way out the door, they throw a $20 bill on the ground, and they say, here you go. Yeah. Here you go. Oh my gosh, Deglado, you just gave me a panic attack. Teaching in a room full of Johns. I'm just kidding. I didn't have a panic attack, but yeah, that would be like one of the 7 levels of hell for sure. Here you go. Yeah, he was a great man. My dad died when I was 5. My dad had a very rare form of cancer, and he died when I was 5. And this is the man that raised me. He was a World War II veteran. Great man. Great man. Everybody says that, Raw family. Everybody says he looks like no Glenn, and that's a false choice, and you know it, and that's silly, and you can do better. You can do better. The choice is not invade Venezuela or you love drug dealers. And I know when you said it, you knew how silly it was, but you had to say it anyway because you're hearing that and you're reading it and you're listening to it on Fox News. But even when you said it, you knew how silly it was. No, John said any of us who disagree with funding the infrastructure rebuilding in Venezuela, he said we were all Schnazis. That's what got him dumped. And it was his third reference to all of us being that. And one of the things I don't tolerate. Yeah, Glenn, thanks for your input, man. I mean, you've raised the level of the narrative echelons. All right, guys, listen. I really appreciate everybody coming in. I hope you'll follow me. I'm up to about 60,000 followers on YouTube right now. I do rural advocacy work through the back40action.org. I hope you will follow me, and I've really enjoyed it today. Appreciate all the opposition coming in. Appreciate everybody that came in today to talk about what happened in Venezuela. I'm going to be going over to TikTok now. I'm going to be on there for about an hour and a half. If you want to join me, you can come over there. I hope you guys enjoyed the live, and I'll talk to you soon, okay? Thanks, everybody.